Every time a new artist blows up overnight, the internet immediately start asking the same question. Were they real or were they planted? The terms get thrown out so much these days that it has almost lost its meaning. But here is the thing. They are actually different level to this and some of them are a lot more serious than others. Let's walk through all five, from the most subtle all the way down to the most troubling. Level 1, the organic plant. These are the smartest ones because on the surface everything looks completely real. The story always follows the same pattern. They come from nowhere, they record something simple in the bedroom, it goes viral. The world discovered them and just like that a star is born. But when you look a little closer, the bedroom is in $1 million home. The viral movement was quietly coordinated behind the scenes and professional management was already in place long before anyone ever heard their name. These artists keep the log and feel of someone who did it the hard way, while secretly having every resources a major label could provide. Well-known example is an artist who became famous after a song recorded in a home studio spread repeatedly online. What this story leaves out is that the brother behind that recording had already spent years working inside the music industry, writing and producing for other artists. With an established manager already in his corner, both parents had entertainment industry backgrounds, and the artist had been even pulled out of traditional school specifically on to focus on music full time. The connection to the major label did not happen by accident. It happened through a carefully built a network of industry relationships that had been in place for years. The reason level 1 works so well is because the artist is genuinely talented. The story just is not entirely what it seems. Level 2, the obvious plant. These artists grow from unknown to everywhere almost overnight, and even casual listeners notice that something does not quite add up. They show up on major festival lineups before they have a real fan base. They get television appearances before they have a real catalog. They collaborate with the established stars on their second single. The machines give them very awkward sign of success before they have actually earned it through real audience growth. You will see the streaming numbers, but you will never hear anyone playing their music in real life. They are trending online, but nobody around you is actually talking about them. The idea is simple: push hard enough and fast enough, and eventually real fans will follow. Sometimes it works, sometimes it collapses just as fast as it started. The most commonly used example in this category is a female rapper who went from completely unknown to being a called a princess of an entire genre within just a few months of her first song dropping. She was on a major red carpet events within a year of that. One thing that really gets mentioned is that the head of her record label had family ties to one of the largest music companies in the world, which means it was not just money being spent on her career, it was access to every important door in the industry being opened at the same time. Level 3, the puppet. This is where things get a little more uncomfortable. These are artists who became what the industry wanted them to be rather than what they actually wanted to be, rather than what they actually wanted to be themselves. They had some early access, but the real machine did not kick in until powerful people reshaped them from the ground up. The image, the sound, the personality, all of it constructed. One of the clearest example of these, one of the biggest pop star in the world today. She started out playing piano in small venues, doing jazz standards, wearing normal clothes, just a regular young woman trying to make it in music. She got signed to a major label as a teenager and was dropped just 3 months later because the label thought she was too ordinary and not marketable enough. So she changed everything. She studied what had worked for other artists before her. She simplified her skills. She built an entirely new persona from scratch. Wild outfits, theatrical performances, and image design entirely around getting attention. By the time she broke through, she was barely recognizable as the person she had been just 2 years earlier. She has been honest in interviews about the cost of that decision. There is a version of her that the public fall in love with, and a real person underneath who spent years trying to find her way back to herself. When she attempted a more personal and stripped back behind her career, the public largely rejected it because they did not want the real person, they wanted the character they had been sold. Level 4, the Nepo Baby. These artists were inside the industry before they ever become artists themselves. They grew up around it, they had dinner with label executive as children, they watched their parents record albums, they had access to studios and producer and industry connections from the day they were born. They can afford to fail over and over again and still get another chance because the safety net was always there. Some Nepo babies are born into it so completely that their success feels almost predetermined before they ever release a single note. One of the most surprising names in this category is one of the most successful rappers of the last 2 decades. His father was a professional musician who worked alongside some of the founding figures of rock and roll. Two of his uncles were also established musicians. One played bass with one of the famous swan group in history, and the wrote songs for one of the greatest soul singers who ever lived. He was already earning real money as a television actor as a teenager, which gave him both financial resources and industry connections before he ever released his first mixtape. Starting from the bottom was great marketing, but the bottom in his case came with a safety net most people could never imagine. Level 5, the super plant. This is the most serious level and the most troubling one of the about. These artists do not write their own music. They do not choose their own image. They do not control their own social media. They show up, perform the role they have been assigned, and collect a percentage of what they generate. Many of them started as children, put enough development program that shaped every part of who they were, what they eat, what they said publicly, who they were seen with. Their entire existence become consistent designed to sell a product. And the one who ends up here almost always carry the heaviest personal cost, the highest rates of mental health struggles, the most public and painful unrevealings. The most well-known example of American pop history is a young woman who first appeared on television talent program as a child, alongside other young performers who would all go on to become major stars. She was signed to record label as a teenager, given carefully constructed image designed to be both innocent and provocative at the same time. She has spoken publicly about being told to maintain a public persona around her personal life that was simply not true. All the product marketable image the label had built around her. By the time she was at the peak of her fame, the years of having almost no control over her own life had taken an enormous toll. What followed became one of the most public personal breakdowns in entertainment history, followed by legal arenas that give other people formal control over her finance and personal decisions for over decades, during which time she continued performing and generating enormous amounts of money. Detail of what she went through took years to fully become public, and when they did, millions of people felt genuine guilt for not recognizing what had been happening in plain sight. The music industry had always had a machine behind it. That is not going to change anytime soon. But understanding how that machine works and recognize the difference between an artist who choose their path freely and one who was built and managed like a product from childhood change how you will listen and what you decide to support. Not every successful artist is a plant. Real talent still breaks through on its own, but the higher the level on the list, less of that artist story actually belongs to the